Hi guys, this is Michaela and I'm presenting with Ariel, and we are going to be talking about closed captions as assistive technology. And our presentation overview, so some things that we're going to be covering are what are closed captions, why we should be using them in our classrooms, what the research says about them, how they are relevant today, and ways we can implement them, and other options in our classrooms. So what are closed captions? Closed captions are actually not the same as subtitles. Subtitles are used for translating languages, so think of Les Mis, and closed captions provide speech-to-text visual representations for audio in the same language. So this allows someone to hear and see words simultaneously and are commonly used for those with hearing loss. Captions, what are they? So they identify speakers, they move when obscuring important elements, capture non-speech elements, and are required by USA laws for most video content. Why should we use them? Not only do they create an inclusive environment, they also provide multiple modes of representation for those who may struggle to learn from audio alone. So captions can provide opportunities to see and hear words simultaneously, which builds literacy skills. They benefit students with hearing impairments, students who may have undiagnosed hearing loss, and students who struggle with reading and literacy, and anyone who may benefit from multiple modes of representation. So this can help a lot of students who need different ways to learn material, and they can hear it and see it at the same time. Why should we use them? So the use of captioned or subtitled media can be a great tool for teachers looking to differentiate. So turning on captions during class has considerable benefits for boosting the literacy skills of all students, especially those with print disabilities or ELLs. And captioning can also help strengthen the following reading skills of students with learning disabilities, ELLs, and struggling or beginning readers. So that's reading speed and fluency, word knowledge, decoding, vocabulary acquisition, word recognition, reading comprehension, and oral reading rates. So all of those help to differentiate, and it'll help those who are learning English or have a disability or just struggling or beginning to read. So many struggling readers avoid text and have minimal exposure to print. So imagine the additional hours of print exposure your students would get if captions were turned on every time they watched a video at home and at school.
So what does the research say about closed captions? Getting started, I looked a little bit at teachers' attitudes towards the use of assistive technology in school. So a 2017 study studied how teachers feel about using AT. The study determined that while teachers generally have positive attitudes towards assistive technology, they are usually lacking the competency to actually implement it. So what the study recommends is that teachers need to be trained specifically in implementing assistive technology for students with disabilities, including hearing impairments. A 2010 study for the Journal of Research in Reading studied the impact of closed captioning in the home in a group of economically disadvantaged second and third graders. The study found that students who were exposed to closed captions were able to recognize and understand more words than those who did not use closed captions. So that study specifically worked with economically disadvantaged students because they found that economically disadvantaged students are significantly more likely to have reading struggles and literacy difficulties. In 2015, a dissertation for the University of Seattle studied the impact of closed captioning in the home on a student's academic retention over the summer. So this study was specifically looking at what they called the summer slide, where students tend to forget or regress during the summer. The study found that students who were exposed to captions over the summer actually increased their fluency scores as opposed to those who were not exposed to captions and did experience the summer slide. Finally, a 2016 study for the Journal of Post-Secondary Education and Disability studied student opinions on the inclusion of closed captioning. The findings are transferable to K-12 education, even though the study was done in a college setting. The study found that 99% of students found captions helpful, and 13% of those reported having a disability. The study found that caption videos employ principles of universal design to make course content accessible to students. So that goes back to how closed captionings provide multiple modes of representation and engagement. The students reported that it was easier to learn when they could read and hear the content simultaneously, and ELL students stated it was much easier to retain the content. So why is this relevant today? With everything going on, COVID, everything, students are doing a lot more remote learning, but just because we're learning remotely doesn't mean our classrooms don't have to be inclusive. If anything, it's even more important now than ever that our classrooms are inclusive and everyone can learn. How can we use closed captions? So many educational tools have this as an option, whether you are in or out of the classroom. You can use closed captionings on Flipgrid, on Zoom, on Google Meet, so that however you're presenting your content to your students, they can see and hear what they're learning so that they can access the content no matter what. So YouTube does provide closed captioning, but it is notoriously inaccurate. So first of all, you can proofread your captions. That is definitely something you should do if you are using the free captioning available through YouTube. But if you don't want to do that, you can use an outside company like rev.com that provides captioning for about $1 per minute of video or audio. They provide captioning for YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, Adobe, and more. So that is an affordable way to have somebody else do your captions for you. And of course, whenever you're watching a movie, you can, of course, include captions. Some reviews. This one woman on TheVerge.com did an extensive review where she compared Microsoft Teams versus Google Meet's captioning. She discovered through some tests that while neither is perfect, Google Meet is far more accurate. And some reviews of Rev.com, the provider of closed captions, said things like, if Rev ever needs a raving testimonial, let me know. Captioning is a nightmare, and it took 17 minutes and $3 for them to do it. Incredible. So what do students think? A national study conducted by Oregon State University compiled student perceptions of closed captions. Here are some of the findings. 66% of ESL students found captions very or extremely helpful. 98.6% of all students found captions to be helpful. And 71% of students without hearing difficulties still use captions some of the time. So captions are incredibly relevant to our students. They are helpful and students do like them, so we should be implementing them whenever possible. And here are our resources. Enjoy!